It's been a very long time, too long, but I'm back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back talking about the WNBA, talking about the NBA, talking about everything basketball. Hoops is hoops. You already know on this side. It's your boy, Mike K. Smith. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and follow. And tap in the chat. All my true tellers, you already know what it is. Now, we got a lot of conversation to talk about. We got a lot of things that's been happening in the WNBA game. We got a lot of things crazy that's been going on in the sports media landscape. We got Shannon Sharp getting fired. We got Gilbert Arenas being arrested. We got Caitlin Clark talk with Aliyah Boston on her podcast. Now, I will say this. I'm very consistent for it's like how I feel about young players having podcasts. I talked about how I believe that Angel Reese did not need to have a podcast because it takes away from her focusing on the things she needs to focus on the basketball court, and especially if she was going to have it and be participating in the season, even though she has not. Now we see Aliyah Boston having a podcast in the regular season, and she's actually interviewing Candace Parker, who is also talking about one of her peers in the WNBA and them competing, the season's going on. I really don't like that, to be honest. That's just me. Maybe I'm old school, but I don't really like players having podcasts in the middle of the season, especially when they're young and should be focused on the season, focused on their games. That's just me, though. But it's been a lot of conversation. It's been a lot of talk about Candace Parker talking about Caitlin Clark, Candace Parker talking about Angel Reese. Aliyah Boston also breaks down what is the difference between having Caitlin Clark on the floor and her not being on the floor. And it was basically spot on for the things I've been saying, for the things I've been talking about, for the things I've been critiquing, and we've been talking about the Indiana Fever. Indiana Fever are 14-12 right now. And they've been winning some games without Caitlin Clark. They've been losing some games without Caitlin Clark. We all know they're a much better team when Caitlin Clark is on the basketball court. And we know Kelsey Mitchell, who has been phenomenal. Kelsey Mitchell is the best pure hooper in the game. She has been dominating. She just had 35.7 for 10 for the three-point line. Right now, Kelsey Mitchell is playing like a top 10 player in the WNBA. She's really holding it down. She's really been the Indiana Fever's best player this season so far. Not best overall player. That still is Caitlin Clark because of what she brings offensively and being a generator, and how the defense has to have so much eyes on her in the defensive coverage that she faces. Kelsey Mitchell's not facing that type of defensive coverage. And it's also important to note what Aliyah Boston was talking about and highlighting is some of the similar things that I have spewed out in the recent months and even the past year, when we're just talking about the difference when Caitlin Clark is on the court and when she's not on the court. And we're going to play that soundbite. We're going to react to that soundbite. But the Indiana Fever, they're doing all right. They're 14-12. I predicted once Caitlin Clark got hurt, retweaked her groin, she's out indefinitely, day-to-day, no timetable at all. I predicted that she was probably going to be out towards the middle to end of August. You want to save her and get her close to the playoffs and get her right and get her healthy, because at the end of the day, we don't want things to continue to happen to Caitlin Clark for her leg injury. We want her on the basketball court. We want her healthy. And if you got to keep her out until the end of August and close to the playoffs, that's what you do, because she's been hurt 3 times this year with those lower body injuries, which can affect her jump shot, which can affect her shooting long distance shots and being a 4-level scorer and being a threat as soon as she steps past half court. So we want Caitlin Clark healthy. We want her back. And the Indiana Fever are playing extremely well. But I love this interview with Aliyah Boston and Candace Parker, even though I feel like, once again, that Aliyah Boston doesn't need to have a podcast during the season. But we're going to play the clip where she's talking about the difference with playing with Caitlin Clark in and without her, and it makes a lot of sense. Let me share my screen with y'all. Make sure y'all hop in the chat. Ooh, how do I do this? Did they change it up? I'm trying to share my screen. What's going on? What's going on? Stop mic, edit mic. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to share my screen. It seems like Leave studio. But it's been and while I try to figure out my screen, I'm continue talking. But I feel like Candace Parker really touched on in this interview a lot of great things, a lot of great points. And so did Aliyah Boston, talking about the difference between the coverage for us, that when Caitlin Clark is on the court, the spacing on the basketball floor is way much more spacing, because you get into your early action, your early drag action. Caitlin Clark can shoot from distance, and even when they blitz and they double, then you can kick it out to the wing, and you have shooters. And also, if they're doubling the post, they double the post more when Caitlin Clark is not on the basketball court, because we know Aliyah Boston is unstoppable basically when she's in the post alone going one-on-one, but she's also one of the best passers for at the center position as well. But when Caitlin Clark is off the court, then it's a lot less more room for error. So it's hardly any error when Caitlin Clark is on the basketball court, because we have a generator, we have a playmaker, we have somebody that has a lot of gravity on the court. Then teams are watching and constantly trapping and blitzing and focusing in on Caitlin Clark, and that's just hard. That's hard for teams to kind of like. It's just hard. It's hard for teams to play Caitlin Clark one-on-one. And when I say one-on-one, just play her man up. A lot of times when they're switching, they're trapping, they're blitzing, they're jumping, they're doing face guarding and stuff like that. So when they're doing that, you have Sophia Cunningham ready for the three, Lexi Hole. You have Kelsey Mitchell be able to get to the basket easier because the lane is more open, and even with it's more spacing for Aliyah Boston to go to work as well. So I definitely understand what Aliyah Boston is talking about for us. And when Caitlin Clark is on the court, there is much more spacing in comparison when she's not on the court, because when she's not on the court, some of the players that they have are less threats, if that makes sense. Like, we know that it's easy to stay with your man when you're not having to account for somebody shooting for 30 feet or account for somebody's playmaking ability once they get in the pick and roll or even the pick and pop situations. So it makes a whole lot of sense what Aliyah Boston is talking about. And I definitely get it. I get it a lot, what she's saying, because you have to account for so much. And I don't know what, did they disable? I'm sorry, chat. I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm looking for I'm trying to make sure. So that's what really was very, when I was watching the interview, when I was watching the interview with Aliyah Boston, that was the biggest takeaway that I got from that podcast. And then look, I'll get into it because I don't really need to share the screen. I'll try to keep working on it maybe next for the next stream. But basically, it's been, Candace Parker came out and said that she said that women's basketball needs more criticism and people need to be more open towards the criticism. I 1000% agree. Too many times you make a critique and you analyze the game where you specifically talk about the on-court product, people get offended because they don't know what they're talking about, and they only can basically have emotional takes and takes based on narratives, but no takes based on the actual game. So that's why we hear things about like you're being too hard, or you're a hater, or you just started watching the women's basketball since Caitlin Clark came. That's the biggest diss that people love to comment. And no, that's not the case. The case of the matter is you don't know how to talk about the WNBA product without talking about things that really don't pertain to hoop. That's why we can have people sit up and talk about how, and this is no shade, but I'm about to give a critique, how Chelsea Gray is still the top point guard in the world because she's done it for longer. She's been more consistent. She's been, even prior to her injuries, coming back off her injury, she's still the best passer in the league. That was asinine take. I've heard that for 2 years. I ain't heard it that much this year, but I've heard it for the past 2 years when Caitlin Clark was coming in and people were like, "What? We're talking about Caitlin Clark. She's the best passer. We're talking about in the basketball court. We're not just talking about the assists. We're talking about how she generates looks, how she passes full court touchdown passes, how she lays the ball in the right angles, in the right spots. What are we talking about?" So that's what we're talking about when Candace Parker has mentioned about, like, it's time for the league to grow up. It's time for people to stop being so sensitive. It's time for people to be able to have conversations when we're talking about the on-court product and not basing things on if I like this person or I don't like this person. It's too much stan culture in sports media when we talk about the women's side, when we talk about the game of basketball. And it's not like that in the men's side because, as Candace pointed out, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, they can take shots, personal character shots, basketball on-court shots, narrative shots, whatever shots that they want to take at the male athletes, and they just take it, and some may say something about it, but it's not – none of that is happening really in the women's game. And we're just talking about trying to keep things – or trying to talk about things that actually matter on the basketball court and people taking it personal. Like, it's too much baby. It's too much crying in the WNBA, and as the league gets bigger and the league grows, it's no more gatekeeper. You're opening up to a casual audience that's going to jump in the game, whether it's the root for Angel Reese, the root for Caitlin Clark, to be a stand, whatever. It's going to be more casuals entering the game, but it's also going to be more people that are covering the game that has the knowledge, that understands the nuances of the game, that understands the importance of running sets and diving deeper into actual on-court things that pertains to basketball and not focusing on the outside noise and everything that people want to shy away from, which is the basketball court, because they don't actually want to talk about what matters the most because simply either they can't or they just don't want to. Probably a combination of the two. But Candace Parker is receiving a lot of criticism when she was talking about. So that's what I agree with Candace Parker. But when it comes to some of the things when she was talking about Angel Reese, and most people didn't actually hear the full clip of Candace Parker breaking down and talking about Angel Reese. And she was asked to rank players in certain tiers, right? So, and when it came to Candace Parker and mentioned Angel Reese, she listed Angel Reese in like the C tier, right? And said that she potentially can get to the A tier or the B tier if she continues to develop and continues to work on her game. First and foremost, Angel Reese has been phenomenal this year. She has been the third best wing because she's playing the wing position. That has really blossomed her game and brought her game to another level. But to be honest, I'm gonna keep it real. She's been, other than Nefessa Collins and Asia Wilson, she's been the third best wing this season. I think her recent play has been better than Breanna Stewart. And I'm not saying that Angel Reese is better than Breanna Stewart, but the past 10 games that Angel Reese and Breanna Stewart have played, Angel Reese has been more impactful and it has moved me more so than Breanna Stewart. So when we talk about, if you're Candace Parker, what are you talking about? Are you talking about overall? Or are you talking about this year? Because she said the players who you take Angel Reese over, she mentioned Caitlin Clark, Nefessa Collins, Sabrina Escu, Asia Wilson, Paige Beckers, Arike, Breanna Stewart. Those were the names that I recall her mentioning, right? So recent play, I feel like she's been playing better than Breanna Stewart. She's not better overall. Arike has been horrible this year. Horrific. She has been atrocious. And Arike is my favorite basketball player in the WNBA. Like when we talk about my top 3 basketball players in the WNBA, she's included in that. And she would tell you she just hasn't been her best season. And she's been doing better after the All-Star break, but she hasn't played up to her standards and up to the Enrique that we know and have grown accustomed to loving and watching. So, and even Paige has been phenomenal. She's been playing extremely well as a rookie, very fantastic. But I don't know, based on what Angel Reese and her responsibility that she has for her team to lead in points, rebounds, and assists. And we know when Angel Reese doesn't even play, the Chicago Sky are already trash. But when Angel Reese doesn't even play, they're even more trash. And Angel Reese's impact on the basketball court with the Chicago Sky has them, when she's playing, has some kind of like fighting to try to maybe make a possible run in the playoffs. We're not saying that about the Dallas Wings and Paige Beckers. We're not saying about Enrique. So those players that she mentioned, overall, yes, you probably will want them over. You will want them over Angel Reese. But we're talking about this year, then what she said is very questionable for his Tears. And even when we're talking about Tears, the person that she's interviewing, Aliyah Boston, what tier is Aliyah Boston in? Because you're talking about Angel Reese, but Angel Reese and Aliyah Boston are in the same tier. So it's just like that's what people are going to talk about. And you take it, if you're Angel Reese, you take it as respect, because you now have one of the greatest basketball players in WNBA history, one of the greatest hoopers of all time, regardless of gender. But Candace Parker is on most people's Mount Rushmore for the 4 greatest basketball players of all time on the WNBA side. But if you're Angel Reese, you take it as respect, that she's critiquing, that she's analyzing, that she's constantly talking about you and mentioning you when it comes to certain things. Because that means you're doing something right. That means your people are witnessing what you're becoming, especially this year. That means you got legends starting to rattle the fence a little bit and get a little nervous because of not only does Angel Reese on court has improved dramatically this year, but she got the swag and the sauce off the court as well. Angel Reese is a superstar, bona fide, box office. And now everybody who wants to talk about, me, let's keep it on the basketball court. Now the basketball court is matching the sauce and the swag as well. So was Candace Parker hating on Angel Reese? No, I don't think she was hating. Maybe some tough love, her honest opinion, but you respect it. But if you Angel Reese, you're doing something right. Because when you got people have always said this, if you're a hooper or if you play sports in general, if the coach is not on your ass, you ain't doing. If your coach is not on your ass, that means that he sees something in you. If the coach is not on your ass, that means he don't see nothing in you. He don't care. So when you got legends commentating in the sports media landscape, constantly criticizing, constantly talking, constantly taking little shots, whether it's love mixed with a little hate, because we know love and jealousy can go hand in hand at times, just like love and hate can go hand in hand at times. When that's happening, you doing something right. Angel Reese this season has been doing something right because she's crying at a lot of noise. But it was a great show. I think everybody should go watch the full clips of the post. I think it's Post Moves. I think that's the podcast called with Aliyah Boston and Candace Parker. But it's your boy, Mike K. Smith. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on AKISS NBA on all the social media platforms, talking the WNBA, talking the NBA, talking all hoops. You already know what it is. And appreciate y'all, my true tellers, hopping in the chat. And I'm gone, man. Peace. Also remember, faith without works is dead. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. Always acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I'm gone, man. Peace.